Hi everyone, this is Gulab here, and now I'm beginning part 3 talking about dragons. Here is Medea, mistress of dragons. Greek mythology relates that once a king of Thebes, desperate to protect his kingdom from his nephew Jason, sent him off on a deadly mission to journey across the sea far to the northeast to retrieve the golden fleece of Hermes, flying ram. Sheep's fleece has been documented in Western Asia today as still being used to filter and trap gold from mountain streams. But this fleece, besides being of sacred origin, was also the totemic object bound to the longevity of the king of Colchis. It was protected there, not far from the Black Sea, where it had been nailed to a tree in a dragon sanctuary. Jason, being regurgitated from the maw of the Drakon of Colchis that guards the golden fleece, Jason sought help from the foreign king's daughter Medea, an adept of the cult of Hecate, I don't know how to say it, the moon goddess. Unfortunately for her, she had become the target of one of Eros' arrows and was smitten with Jason. When he promised before the deities of that Asian land to take her back with him to an honorable estate, i.e., as his lawful wife, she agreed to betray her own father and thus endanger the welfare of her state to sing the dragon to sleep. Jason accomplished his quest and returned to Greece with her, which must have taken some time, for they had 2 sons together. When his uncle did not keep his part of the bargain, Jason and his family had to flee to Corinth. There, in an attempt to make a place for himself, he became involved in an arranged marriage with the daughter of Creon, ruler of that city. Medea was appalled primarily by the broken sacred vow and pretended to accept the situation, making for the younger woman a poisoned dress of cloth of gold. When that poor victim suffered her final agony, Medea then slew her own 2 sons before their father's eyes. She conjured up a dragon-drawn vehicle and flew off in it as Jason fell upon his own sword on the threshold of their home. Ugh, what a very bad story that was. But let's continue. Maybe we'll get to a better story. Honoring the dragon. From prehistoric times, monuments were raised and later temples and shrines were built in honor of the dragons that were understood to be controllers of the rain and the wealth of rivers, lakes, and seas. For example, there's a Vishapkar dragon stones of pre-Christian Armenia. Incense and prayer were offered especially on the 1st and 15th of every month at pagodas and shrines, such as Black Dragon Pool Chapel near Beijing, said to have been reserved especially for the use of the Empress and her court. Temple Island in Japan's inland sea is a famous dragon pilgrimage destination. There are also Lu temples in Tibet where various reptiles are also considered members of the Naga class of beings. The dragon image. The dragon is one of the 4 Chinese spiritual animals. The others are the phoenix, qilin, a kind of unicorn, and the tortoise. As protectors of the 4 directions or cardinal points of the compass, they are red bird, white tiger, dragon, tortoise. Much has been made of the distinguishing characteristics of the various Asian dragons. There is an iconographic convention in which the common dragon is 4-clawed and 5-clawed. One is the celestial one, that is the Chinese imperial emblem, and the colonial type, such as the Japanese one, is shown with only 3. The image of a dragon, its face or mask, or an abstract design representing its serpentine form, is generally used as a protective mark. For example, the winding design used to frame the corners of a page of Tibetan writing has its origin in Nagas or protective dragons. Sometimes their eye dots are indicated. In the Tibetan tradition, the turquoise dragon is said to protect against discord of all types, but especially slanderous gossip and the misuse of words. Dragons often appear on metal musical instruments such as bells, gongs, and the small cymbals that can serve to represent the music offering on a Buddhist shrine. This may relate to the roar of righteous indignation of the protective dragon, but also to its legendary love of music. They are also found in architecture where they protect against fire and earthquakes. Their image functions as a kind of amulet or talisman of security, so they are found at the bases of monuments, on bridges, and on the eaves of roofs. The lifespan of the Eastern dragon. This part's very interesting. While male dragons are described as having undulating, steep, concave horns, female dragons are said to have straight noses, round manes, thin scales, 81 in number, and a strong tail. They lay their eggs near water, and the eggs can take 1,000 years to hatch. When fluid runs from the eggs as they begin to hatch, it is said that the parents cry out. The sounds of father and mother differ, and they dramatically affect the weather in different ways, causing darkness, torrential rain, and the essential thunder and lightning that induces the dragon eggs to crack. The different forms of the dragon are attributed to its stage of development. At 500 years, they are considered Kaio, scale dragons. At 1,000 years, they are mature, Long. It takes another 500 years for the horns to develop fully, Qiu Long, and another millennium for the dragon to fully develop into the Yinglong, or winged dragon capable of flight. They are believed to have shape-changing abilities except when being born, sleeping, lustful, or angry. There are 4 major kinds of Chinese dragon. Qianlong, celestial guardians who support the mansions of the gods. Shenlong, weather makers who govern the clouds and bring rain. Qilong, earth dragons who control rivers. And the Fuzanglong, treasure keepers who guard deposits and hoards of precious metal. Dragons are said to like precious stones and roasted swallows, but to be afraid of the leaves of the Wong plant, leaves of the Lin tree, 5-colored silk thread, wax, iron, and centipedes, or perhaps scorpions. Classes of dragons. There is a popular classification of Chinese dragons that aims to identify 9 types. It lists the horned dragon, the winged dragon, the celestial dragon supporting and protecting the mansions of the gods, the spiritual dragon, which generates wind and rain for the benefit of mankind, the dragon guarding concealed wealth, and the sinuous moving water dragon. The most powerful is the horned dragon, or Long, which produces rain and is believed to be totally deaf. It is described as having a head like a camel, horns like a deer, eyes like a hare, ears like a bull, neck like a lizard, a belly like a frog, scales like a carp, paws like a tiger, and claws like those of an eagle. The homeless dragon, known as Li, lives in the ocean, and the Qiao is a scaly green creature with yellow sides and a crimson underbelly that inhabits marshes or mountain dens. It has a pair of large canine teeth in its upper jaw and long whiskers, which it uses like those of a catfish. It can vary from greenish to golden and is said to have alternating short and long spines all the way down its back and tail, ending in a long brush. One specimen had wings at its side and walked on top of the water. Another tossed its mane back and forth, making noises that sounded like a flute. Cowheads are also common. A 10-footer found lying on the banks of China's Yangtze River was different from most because of its long, thick eyebrows. A Yellow River variety seen on the shore in the 1920s by a Chinese teacher was bright blue and as big as 5 cows. Both dragons crawled into the water as soon as it started to rain. The 4 directional dragon kings form a distinctive type of Chinese dragon. In paintings, the red one is associated with the west, black is for the north, yellow for the eastern one, and green for the southern one. When a central one is depicted, it is usually white, but may be blue. Dragons are also thought of as features of geography for having brought rain to humankind without the Jade Emperor's permission. The troops of heaven were ordered to arrest 4 rebellious dragons, and the mountain god collected mountains with which to pin them down. Determined to do good for the people, however, they turned themselves into 4 rivers, which flowed past high mountains and deep valleys, crossing the lands from the west to the east and finally emptying into the sea. And so China's 4 great rivers were formed: the Heilongjiang, Black Dragon in the far north, the Huanghe River, Yellow River in central China, the Chongjiang, Yangtze or Long River farther south, and the Zhujiang, Pearl, in the very far south. All right, I'm going to stop there and start a part 4, and I'll be talking about reversal of fortune. And now this is part 4, talking about dragons, starting with reversal of fortune. A type of European dragon known as the Guither can cause disease with its breath, but it has the curious characteristic of being so embarrassed by nudity that it will flee from the sight. There is a legend that relates how Bishop Saint Romain of Rouen subdued the Gargouille. The sinuous monster emerged one day from the waters of the Seine and causes a great flood. The Archbishop of Rouen, accompanied by a prisoner who was slated to die, managed to confront the monster. The Archbishop placed one finger across another, making the sign of the cross, and the gargoyle was immediately tamed. Sadly, tamed or not, it was led submissively to a place of execution, where it was burned to death. So interesting, the whole depiction of the Western dragon being so different from the Eastern. The Western dragon is the diametric opposite of its Eastern counterpart. We can almost visit the time and the place where the transformation occurred. The scripture designated by its opening Babylonian words, Enuma Elish, describes how gorgeous Tiamat, whose domain is the earth's water, is cruelly slain by Marduk. This lord, the champion of the sky, gods and titans, slays the dragon with a blow from his mace and a bag of evil wind that he gets her to swallow so that she explodes. He remains like a clamshell. Form the heavens and earth as we know it. King of the Indian Devas, Indra, slays Vitra, the water dragon, also by means of a blow from the mighty mace. Let's see what else here. I'm going to skip this next story. It seems to be more like another one of those Western stories. I don't really have much interest in that. So I guess that comes to the end right there. So that concludes my first dragon series. And then tomorrow I'll continue on with another dragon series because I'm doing a whole video series of dragons. This is just the first collection. So dragons are very real in my opinion, and there are completely a reality here on this planet and also in the universe. and they're very special beings with lots of powers. So I will continue to talk about that, and they have a very significant importance in Buddhism as well, which I'm going to speak about too. So thanks for listening, everyone, and you all have a great day.